Twitter.
Okay. Yeah. Let me get the link. We are live. We live.
Number 66, man.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
100 coming up. Quick. So let me get the link. Great. I've sent it. I've sent the link.
So,
and we live.
Very much live. Very much live.
How's the week been?
As usual, boring, but you're not seeking entertainment.
Doing the mundane. Life is composed of those, but I guess it's about how do you make those situations exciting. I was actually just talking with my friend, the guy who I was talking to, and he was telling me about some of the AI projects he's been working on. He's been, sort of dabbling into this AI business. It's gonna be. This is, now everything. I don't think a week passes by without hearing about or talking about AI.
What AI projects is he working on?
So he said he just trained a model where, so he's into career coaching. He does career coaching. So he built a model where, somebody is looking to serve. It's like a chat box. So he has trained it to go through. So he does a lot of videos every week. I think he does about 1 or 2 videos around career coaching. So he'll give a tip. He also has a website where he blogs. So the model is trained to go through all his videos and all the content he has developed in his blog post. So if somebody is engaging with that AI, it's like a bot. It's like one of those chat boxes. It gives him a response as though and he has trained it with his voice also. So it's like is able to provide sort of a first level support, if you might think it as such, through AI, and then he's able to follow that up, and he will have the transcripts of how the questions that the AI was being asked, how it responded. In some scenarios, the AI would say, "I don't know." So you're actually just going through that, and I'm saying, okay, maybe what you want to do is train it, not to necessarily respond back as "I don't know," but maybe to say, okay, I've taken that into note, and I'll come back to you. I'll pass it over to my either superiors or whatever. So it's like you're engaging with a human being. You're getting the first level support, and this is based off the knowledge that he has built over time through his videos and blog posts. So very interesting thing. So
I think based on my very tiny dabbling into data science, that one sounds like a visual version of natural language processing.
it is, yeah.
But a
That's
visual
exactly
form,
what it is. So
NLP.
it's at a very basic level.
So what he has done,
And
he has collected a very huge number of videos. That is the data set. So
correct.
the model will listen to the questions being asked, process the question, dig into the data set, and go through, look for the relevant clips we'll put together. Now, what I'm asking, in those
100%.
clips,
That's exactly
is he
it.
wearing the same clothes? No, he has to look. You need to create that background, the clothes, lighting, so that when you're interacting with it, where maybe that information is needed, that the information that is needed cuts across 2 video clips, so that there's a transition from one video to another. That's my take.
So the response, I don't think the response is being provided in a visual form. It's kind of like your chat
Audio.
GPT. So it's a text form. I think there is the audio element to it. So one, I think he gave his voice sample, and I'll need to engage him to confirm this. But from the way he was describing it, it responds with his voice. So he gave his voice sample. So when it's reading those responses or it's giving a response,
Well,
it's in his
similar to what
voice, but
was encouraging
there's
my
no
brother to do.
video. There's no
Oh,
video involved. So
a bit similar to what I was encouraging my brother to do was
mhm,
AI call center
mhm,
where you call and the machine but like all things AI, there has to be some aspect of human supervision whereby when the AI is unable to answer the question, say, let me escalate to my superiors and get back to you. So you as the back end support will be receiving the escalation messages. And then I think there should be a prompt at the, for example, there will be two options. Option one, successful conversation, whereby at the end of the conversation they'll ask you, are you satisfied with the session? When you say yes or no, if it is no, you give a reason. Then there's whereby there's escalation. So you as the back end, the first thing you'll be looking will be the escalation messages. What message did the AI fail to handle? So those will be the improvement points, which is it's quite. Although when I used to do when I was dabbling in data science, there used to be this site called I forget. They used to run challenges but those were data science challenges whereby uh, a challenge is put to you, then they give you a data set to work on, and then there's a certain is a partial data set. One part is for your model to run, then the data set is the target they are looking for. So what the contest is all about is how well your model gets the outcomes correct. It was a very interesting challenge, but it was quite tough. It was called GZ. It was something, I forget its name, and it was tough. There was the level one, you are just competing for clout. Level two, you're competing for points. Level three,
mm,
money, like $10,000, $5,000, $8,000, and man, it was tough. It was really really tough, but it was very interesting. Before I go into things of the zero by code, that's what I really used to push on, and I think now in Kenya, AI should be, by my books, the use of AI should be in hiring, recruitment services, whereby I would call it something like HRVAS, Human Resource Vetting and Acquisition System, HURVAS, Human Resource Vetting and Acquisition System, whereby the data set is the job requirement, whereby you're looking
mm,
at the academic requirements, you're looking at the character traits, because you're not a machine. You may be qualified, but you are temperamental. You may be qualified, but you are what do we call it, a sycophant. You are a yes man. Even when the boss is going wrong, you'll say yes. So these character traits are supposed to work together with your academic qualification. That's why, no disrespect, when you look at our education system, we have highly qualified lecturers, but when it comes to delivering the material, aye, if you do not take time to go through a handout, it's a headache. But there are lecturers, you listen to him for 1 hour, 3 lessons, you can sit in a cut and pass. And there are
mm.
others, if you do not go through some texts, you are going to have an extremely rotten time. Sharif Mustafa, karibu sana. So I'm looking at a situation whereby AI can play a role in what do I call recruitment and even lecturing, whereby in
Yes.
lecturing, the AI is lecturing and it's looking at students' expressions. You see these huge halls where the lecturer stands somewhere down there, he talks, reading a handout, bye bye. But when you're focusing, you can know who you are melala. This one looks confused. It will call out, Andrew, you seem a bit confused. Is there a problem? Such interactions is what I would, it's not really replacing humans, but sort of refining the interactions between humans. Because when you talk of full replacement, then let's say you have a blackout because you can't have full automation. Full automation is subject to failure. So I think there should always be someone at the back end looking at the transcripts and so on and so forth. But what do I call it? AI in machine control, that one is a no for us. Like autonomous vehicles, Nini, that one we are not yet. Our infrastructure does not allow that. That's why even when you buy a Tesla, it has to be a grey import in Kenya. They can't give you the support.
It has to be a what?
Grey import. A grey import is
Gray
like
input
this.
means what?
You see these second-hand cars we buy. When
Mhm.
you buy a car, you import a Toyota from Japan. It is a pre-owned vehicle, so
Mhm.
no dealer, there is no technical support from Japan. But if you buy
Mhm.
one from Toyota Kenya
Mhm.
now you are good to go. So when you was purchasing it, the grey imports, it is only purchasable as a grey import because one things like mapping of charging infrastructure. I know there's one Tesla in Syokimau. The guy I think has a compound. He does his charging there, and his movement is problem with the
Yeah, I
personal car.
remember seeing there was one on Twitter. I also
Yeah,
saw one. Was it last week? Actually, last week on Sunday or
the white
Saturday
one.
rather. Um, yeah, so the one in Kenya is a white one. The one here is blue.
Yeah.
And actually, it's like one of these car bazaars of sorts. And I think they were saying they are ready to be importing Teslas. Um, I don't know
With an
how they'll
electric
function.
car, I'll be more comfortable with an electric car if I have a backup of a normal car or a hybrid and I have a charging system in my compound because there's still that aspect of convenience. You can drive to any petrol station, fill up your car, and go away anytime. But with a electric, when you say let's say fast charging for let's say half an hour, then you find there's a queue. So if there are like four vehicles ahead of you, like what happened, I think was it 2022 on Christmas Day. There was a problem. I don't know what happened. There's a very long queue of Tesla cars. So if one Tesla is charging, taking half an hour, and there are
Mm.
five cars ahead of you, you're talking 2.5 hours. It's a bit of a headache. The only people I like are this Chinese company called Neo. Neo, they operate on battery swap. And but the battery swap, you need to, if you have to set up that system in Kenya, you need to have a very good team uh, in terms of maintenance. It's a very somehow complex process because you park your car next to the battery swap, then
Mhm.
it's like the battery swap station links with your car. Then the car starts moving automatically without you touching anything. It positions itself under at that place. Then some robot unscrews under your car, pulls out the battery, then plugs in the new one. So, well, I'll be okay with the three wheeler. The three wheelers, you can just use a small pulley to lift. With the car, it's a robot system. So you're looking at let's say, the amount of money you have to pay those technicians to run it. Then there's a lot of banging noises of a lot of levers moving, maintenance cost of that lever. That's another cost on its own. That's why I normally say for electric vehicles, Let us avoid this copy paste culture. At our level, we need to push hard on the value addition of electric car to what you call places where transportation is a necessary headache. Like in a factory, the purpose of the factory is to manufacture. That truck is simply to ensure that the goods get there on time. If customers would come and buy goods direct from the factory, they'll be like, hallelujah, tumepona. But since you have to sort of stay ahead of you need the vehicles. Now, any good factory will have a transport manager, they'll have data on their distribution network. Therefore, you'll be looking at when you are selling them a vehicle, what is your worst case scenario in terms of average circuit distance. I like coming up with the terminology. Circuit distance is the distance the vehicle will cover leaving the factory in the morning and close of the day when the vehicle comes back. So if your circuit is 250 kilometers, I'll give you a track of 350. Then we'll incorporate the charging system with the factory's power supply, which has a generator. So you're at peace.
Yeah.
When you're
Yeah,
when
I
the
mean, you
driver,
raise a great point, and maybe not getting into the details of what that will be, but the general point you've raised of not copy pasting is important, because what it has brought in my mind is it's like we don't have our own, all the engineers we train in our universities, all the pharmacists, the scientists we train. I think we've been taught this thing of benchmarking. It's like we can't be original.
it is actually yes, you can borrow an idea, but the key word is tailor making.
Exactly. Adopt it to our environment. I mean, the other day I was
Tailoring.
seeing a video. I don't know if you have seen that video of how they do trash in Netherlands. I think it's a video that was circulating where they will have the initial, this is the trash bins you see on a street. So in Netherlands, what they have is there's a trash bin that you see right on top of a street, but it also has another sort of something that dug into the ground, and every time when they're having to empty it, they have to pull out that thing they have sunk on the ground. So they found a way, as opposed to just having the basic bin that sometimes fills up, particularly say if you have like a festival going through the street or something, they fill up and then maybe it takes a while to dispose of them. I mean, you've seen places like New York where you see trash bins littered all across the street because maybe a shop or a restaurant, has put its trash out, and maybe the trash truck takes a while to come and pick it up. So it probably sits there for a day or two before it is picked up, and then it piles up and all that. And that's why, places like New York have to fight a lot of rodents that are around. But so to cut the long story short, the Netherlands crafted a way. Somebody sat down and said, oh, this is a problem we are having. Why can we devise this kind of a thing? And I think this is what we need to do. We need to present these societal problems to our engineers, our scientists, and craft our own solution. Yes, that solution could be you've borrowed an element from maybe the Netherlands, you borrowed another element from Singapore. As you're saying, maybe for us as a country, shouldn't be thinking of how do we move to a fully electric world. It could be, as you say, having some kind of a hybrid, or where you have more defined tasks to be done and
Like when you say
areas you can have full electric, but not just adopting it wholesale, but figuring
because
out how you
electric for what? When you say electric for like
exactly.
when you buy furniture, si unasema hii ni ya sitting room. This table is for the one that you put next to your bed, where you put maybe your phone. So the one that I cannot, maybe you are having like I don't know where you those studios where you see how furniture is arranged. You can't take that thing that stool ambayo inakaa next to the bed, then you adopt it to serve as a dining table. You look crazy. So we cannot just copy paste. If it, yes, I'm very much okay with electric mobility, but you have to ask yourself, yes, where do we plug it? Where do we say this concept fits here properly? This concept fits in this section properly. So you can start with industry by industry. Well, okay, let's start with the daily movers which operate within a certain locality. Bread vans for bakeries. There's no way a bread van will go from Mombasa to Mtitwandei or Mombasa to Nairobi. There's a certain network. So you say, okay, now since we cannot sort of have charging stations all over, why don't we make tailor-made vehicle as per the factory? Because the factory is already a power, it has a power system. So you are going industry by industry. Then you say quarter of the year, 30% of the bakeries were using electric cars. And you don't say full, you have to put a cap because this is still new technology. So let's put a cap. If you're having a fleet, let's have your fleet capped at maximum 30% electrics. Because already with the normal internal combustion engines, we have problems maintaining these vehicles. So let's put a cap at 30%. Then we analyze the data. We look at how we are performing in the first quarter now that 50% of our bakeries are using 30% of this fleet. Next order of business, go to schools. I'm not saying the schools sell their diesel powered vehicles. Keep them there for long haul. But for these short trips where you're going to pick students and come back asubuhi jioni, let the bus charge overnight, carry students in the morning, charge during the day, carry in the evening. And the diesel will be there for the long. So it's a plan, industry by industry,
Yes.
education industry, manufacturing industry. If it is what do I call it, agriculture. I sometime back I posted a picture of an electric tractor, and then again when you talk of electric tractor, it goes hand in hand with the rural electrification program. These are things that you sit down and mesh these things together. You don't just wake up in the morning, hey, I'm buying a Tesla, oh, I'm buying a Rivian. You look really confused because if you ask, okay, what has been the impact of electrical vehicles on our industries? No one has an answer.
It's, I don't know. I don't know. I think we've relegated our creative thinking to other people. And we don't solve. Our universities really, I mean, one of the ways to now begin to use them in a way that is practical and pragmatic to the issues that we have as a country, because we are all unique. We could even, the other day I learned that, like here in Rwanda, apparently, if you're in public service, they have developed or they have said that Friday afternoons are dedicated for sport. That you're free to go home, engage in sport, do some walking, do some running. This is their own culture. Now, somebody might think about it, a whole afternoon you guys are not working. But it's fine because that's how they have defined their community and their culture, that they want to have people that are healthy, not just robots that work 8 to 5. They live sedentary lifestyle. So we're having a huge health bill that ultimately affects productivity. But if you have people that are healthy and strong, maybe the work that should have done within 8 hours, they're able to finish it in 4 hours. So we can each define our own lives. Maybe if it's a question of traffic in Kenya, in Nairobi, is there a way we can reorganize to ensure that every morning people are not just doing the same old thing like clockwork? Maybe, I remember there was that big, huge debate of let's have a 24-hour economy and we can have people working shifts. Maybe that could be also a probable solution to resolving the issue of traffic in Nairobi. Yeah. Maybe it could be now saying, oh, okay, we want people to no longer be all congregating in the city center. Let's start pushing some of these services either to the suburbs or to the outer cities. You know, it's all about thinking creatively to the issues that are unique to us. And that does not mean you keep your head covered and you don't expose yourself to information. Yes, learn about how the Japanese did it, learn about how people in Singapore handle it. So, and then figure out, okay, which are the things that are unique to the way we think or operate. You know, you've heard of that popular Michael Joseph term that Kenyans are very peculiar people, that on a Friday afternoon, all the phones are jammed because people are just calling to find out, oh, uko wapi? Tunafanya nini Friday evening? So, okay, that's no longer a problem. But I remember at the time when, you know, people are now adopting mobile telephony, that was a huge problem. Now I think they've been able to build up capacity. And capacity can then again be upgraded based on the demand cycle. So if Friday is known to be a heavy demand cycle, then they're able to provision either more resources to handle that demand, and that resource can then be retired or pushed somewhere else. You know, just being pragmatic and devising solutions to our own problems. And that creativity, I don't think it's dead. It's there. It's available. We just don't have it tapped into it.
You see,
We are all stuck into benchmarking.
when you talked of Rwanda setting a day for exercise on Friday, my take is that the government is playing a long game because
Yeah.
I was looking at some figures for I forgot, but the long game by the Rwandese government is that most of the medication that people use when they are sick, that medication is imported and is imported in dollars. But if you find a way of, let's say, reducing ailments by 30% over an extended period, because people being active, you are now cutting down, you are managing your dollar consumption medication. That's a long game. Now, there was a certain picture that was shared on Facebook. Moi University was selling some buses, and that bus was it was UD Nissan Diesel. I don't know if it was, there are two types of Nissan Diesel. There was CB31, CB46. Whatever the case, this is one of the most this is the of all buses, this is the one of the hardiest buses, cheap to maintain, easy to operate, and easy to repair. It was for sale, registration number KBJ. That's practical for a UD. That's if it's a Scania, maybe, but for a UD that can be revived. So I'm looking at a situation whereby every technical institute, because my university has a mechanical engineering department, should be put some sort of law that any technical university or technical institute should have the capacity to overhaul some of their fleets. Before you buy a vehicle, you go do an audit of the fleets. Use this as a project for the students. Of course, you can work in conjunction with the dealers. Let's overall, you go to an institute like 8, 10 vehicles, even 30 vehicles grounded there. And that is a technical institution. What are we doing? And then people start struggling for attachment, and you have vehicles there that students can be sort of trained on, because overhaul is an industry on its own. There's actually an overhaul. They are called, I think in France they call them refactories, refurbishing factories. So you find in an
Yeah.
institute like 50 vehicles just rotting there, then you rush to buy new ones. Why? Because buying a new one comes with a kickback. As George NGA says, we are who we are. I mean, a vehicle you can rework on the engine, you can rework the body, you can do something with the gearbox. These should be now projects for the university to engage in. And
Exactly.
again, when you are each
Exactly.
time you refurbish a vehicle, instead of buying, those are dollar consumption you are toning down. Now imagine every university undergoing this overhaul plus upgrading so that they are upgraded to modern looking vehicles. And imagine a student now leaving the university with hands-on knowledge on how to overhaul a vehicle. Then you convert it into an enterprise. within the university, whereby its job is to overhaul vehicles, such that people get interned there. And when the business expands, students who graduate have an option of working there as a first job and gaining experience. So by the time you leave the university fraternity, you have experience in that job. Universities have IT departments. Why can't they have computer assembly like that Taifa thing?
Exactly.
Yeah. We are
I
sitting
mean,
on a
it's all about, I mean, universities should not be institutions of regurgitating old information. They should be institutions of generating new
generating.
knowledge.
Yes.
New
Such that
knowledge.
when you,
And
let's say
it's all about presenting problems to them. Yeah?
like
All
let's
these
say
problems you have in as a society should be researched and looked into. And maybe somebody actually says there's a lot of knowledge in this thesis
and
projects that
like
people do.
places like University of Nairobi with their fleets, those should
Mm,
have the best commercial garage there, whereby other
that's
companies
true.
or other people bring their, because that's where the mechanical engineers are trained, where that's where they have the PhDs and the masters in mechanical engineering. So why can't we have those places converted into garages? Should be the best garages where vehicles are converted into good as new. So we are really so
I
that
mean, and we saw this very well during COVID time. Yeah? You remember the conversation that was going on online was this thing they were calling. I think what was the term they were using? I think they were calling vaccine iniquity, vaccine. There were all these NGO type kind of terms, again to just push the victim kind of mindset. And I was like, how comes all these pharmaceuticals and scientists that we are producing can can they also think of a vaccine instead of waiting for one from the West? It's like it was a given that the only vaccines exist were like 4 or 5. Or I think there were just a few. There was a Chinese and a Russian company. All the rest were from a Western pharmaceutical organization.
and then
Yeah.
also on matters of
Why?
again, now if you go
Mm,
to health, the health sector, why can't we introduce uh, a situation whereby part of our agricultural sector is put aside, tailor-made for growing of plant extracts to serve our medicine manufacturing industry. Some plant extracts we can grow them. You so that this part of our agricultural sector does not just go into food, goes into manufacture of various medicines, malaria medicine, whatever nini, vitu kama hizo. You see, we are sitting on a gold mine.
we are.
Yeah,
We
we
are.
are sitting. Opportunities are everywhere, and I don't know how much this one is going to cost, but I know that what Taiwan is famous for. Taiwan is famous for making the semiconductors, and then
Semiconductors. Yeah.
the number one raw material for semiconductors is sand.
Oh, really?
Yeah, sand. We have sand in there. We have the
Actually,
Nile.
it's interesting you introduced that idea of, or rather that topic of semiconductors, because now they were saying, I think, out of President Ruto's visit to the US, they are looking to establish a semiconductor, I think, production here in Kenya. And I understand it to be the only one in Africa. And then there was a conversation I was listening to, and they say the semiconductor foundation, I think that was the term they used, is in Africa. And I presume they use that term foundation to mean because the raw material is probably sourced from here. And that goes even to other products. If you talk of these lithium batteries, they are all those minerals are sourced from Africa.
But
So
that is where now we have to take time, and if possible, we audit those meetings so that we don't have a semiconductor factory in Kenya and the semiconductor are still expensive. It should be we don't want to end up like Nigeria, that is full of oil wells all over, but you find long queues of vehicles queuing
Fuel,
for
yeah.
doesn't make any sense. So these are some of the, in fact, without even going seeking these loans and whatnot, these things you can do. That's why instead of building funny things like SGR and whatnot, this is where money should be going in terms of finding investors, looking for people, and offering backup to such kind of projects instead of building huge, humongous malls. I don't know what's going on. We have sand, we can build these semiconductors. We have a lot
I
of
think we
trash.
just relegated our thinking to other people. I don't know
If you look
why.
at places
I
like
don't know if it's an
Sweden,
inferiority complex or what.
Sweden had a very big problem. They were running out of organic trash. They were running out of garbage because their power plants run on methane gas from decomposing material. So I can imagine what Dandora can produce.
Can you imagine?
Mm.
We've got plenty of trash, we should be selling it.
No, we should manufacture our own energy from that. Why sell it?
Exactly.
No, you should not sell that.
We probably maybe even after whatever we produce for energy, we'll have a surplus that we
Which
can
developed country
export.
sells raw materials? Which developed country sells raw material? Raw material are only sold by the punies. Where's the, that logic when anipotea? That's why I like the Indian style. No, you cannot. Most products cannot be sold in India unless you build a factory there and you work with them. That's their system. So I don't know. That's why I was listening to a certain leader in the opposition said once he got into got voted in, then he started interacting with some of these leaders. He realized the system is extremely complicated, and it is complicated in a negative way. In that the solution is glaring at you, but you go the other way, like here, this is the door I use to leave my house. But instead I go leap over the balcony because it will take me a shorter time to get down. But I'll end up with broken limbs. The mathematics is not mathematicking in any way. So it's a bit sad that is it refusal to think, or maybe watu wameshikwa mateka na hatujui. You know, some of these things we talk here, and maybe somebody is listening and is fuming like, these two guys, if they knew what is going on, they'll not be yapping here like a couple of fools. That's why sometimes you want even to question your own sovereignty.
Or rather, yeah, you have to question your own sovereignty and your own sanity.
Yes, either we are
Because
crazy, or
again,
either you are crazy, or we
but
never
yeah,
got our.
it was that idea that you remember that reason that I shared with you. I think there was another Brian on Twitter who said it's a question of, what did he call it? I think the term was misaligned incentives.
Yeah.
So the guys on top, even after our president has gone for these visits and whatever, I don't know if he's thinking of how it will benefit him personally, how it will help him grow his own wealth and maintain power, or he's thinking in a long-term basis and in a way that it will develop Kenya. But I don't know. We don't know what motivates him, what kind of incentive is working towards.
And what does
because these people are not stupid. They're very
what does
smart.
his think tank look like? You know what they say?
What does his what?
Think tank, because a president is determined by his think tank. That is if it's there. The president's men.
You have the likes of David Ndii. These are the best that we can produce.
Yeah, you see, the think tank, you see, there's that think tank for the public, then there's that group that you don't see. Those are the key people. Ile
Oh,
ya,
the
ya
kitchen cabinet.
ile ya TV hiyo achana nayo. That's just for
That's
ordinary
true.
mwananchi like me and you too kusema but there's that group where they meet now. Before in some government they used to be under a mugumo tree, then in other they used to meet where. So those people where you meet in a sort of in a secret pub where now people talk freely, that is the key determinant. That's what
Yeah,
puts the president's mind inaitwa kumweka box. That's where the head of
Mweka
state is
box.
put in the box, and then
And
he
maybe
comes.
those are the people that have held him hostage also.
I don't know. It's a head because when we talked of stuff like talking of, I don't know, they were opening a second-hand car auction. Is it in Nanyuki or what not? What if they said, look,
Yeah, yeah.
uh, we are we are
The
having
internal
problems.
container yard.
Yeah.
Go on.
So you could say, listen, we want our mechanics to be more hands-on and whatnot. What if we give an incentive? We are going to drop down taxation on the importation, but bring the vehicle when it has no engine and no gearbox. Then we'll zero rate importation of brand new engines and brand new gearboxes for fitting locally. That muscle memory of maneuvering these things, fitting and diagnosing, within 5 years, utaona tu difference in the quality of these complaints of ufundi ananisumbua nini, they'll start going because these guys have practical experience in fitting these engines, testing and whatnot. So, but it has to be incentive driven. So when you're importing a full car but minus engine and gearbox, then we zero rate for you a brand new engine. For every reduced tax on a shell of a car, we give you a zero rate on its brand new engine and gearbox. Now you can now do those things, what not, fanya vitu zako. That muscle within 10 years, utaona a very big difference. And then these problems won't be very, what do you call, frequent because you are driving vehicles with the new engines. You become more sort of refined. So just an act of parliament, but again, this is the same parliament where people are bribed in the toilet. Inakuwa a bit mbadala pia if you look at it. That's why I normally say when it comes to elections, presidency hiyo ushughulike. Look at those people you are close to your MCAs, your MPs, your senators. Those are the guys who can maneuver and get into state house. They can maneuver, say something in parliament and whatnot. Because we are used to it was 6 piece, something piece or whatever, whereby I
Yeah,
see
6 piece voting.
I see this is NASA, una NASA juu mpaka chini, but kumbe umenasa some rogue characters in that net.
Exactly.
Maybe you've NASA'd ile kunasa umenasa like a former highway robber. Ama umenasa
Yeah, you know, and I guess that's why even somebody was saying that one of the ideas was to separate the presidential election from all these other elections, like from the gubernatorial and then down to your MP, your senator, because what happens is the presidential tends to overshadow the other elections. So because you're gunning for this guy who is in party A, that means anyone who is in party A is who you'll vote for. But yes, president-wise, party A could be the right guy. But for your senator, for your MP, for your governor, you might have to mix and match, depending on the individual that you're voting for, not the party. But then again, you see, this is a problem that the system that we are operating in has created. It's always a question of dichotomies. Actually, now I was just watching a video of the president being interviewed by CNN. That's President William Ruto. I think this was while he was still in the US. And you know, again, it's again, there's no creativity. The same question you'll be asked by media A is what media B, C up to Z will always ask. So they're asking him, are you now tending to, look to the west or to the east? Same old tired question. And I like the response that the president gave him. He said, we are looking forward. So it's like they want us to be loyal on one side or the other. I think as a country, you're only loyal to what benefits you as as a country. So if you find some opportunity in the east, then why not pursue that? If you find some opportunities in the west, then follow that. That pragmatism is not a question of this. And I remember there's actually a very interesting video of Nelson Mandela being interviewed at a town hall. I think it was in New York, somewhere in the US. And again, the person who was asking him a question was, are you a capitalist or are you a socialist? And the guy said, I'm not into any of these isms. For us, we are not looking at, again, not being persuaded to go one side or the other, but look at
what suits
benefits you and be pragmatic about it. So
yes.
that should be the guiding principle, not following one ideology over another, not looking to one side over the other, but look to
So
what will benefit you or guide you
what was
as a country or an organization.
they would say a state visit? Okay. So what
Mhm.
is the end game for the state visit?
So, I mean, there was a long list of what they said, the goodies that we got out of it. So one is out of those state visits, of course, there'll be some contracts that will be signed. We call them contracts or some MOUs. I don't know what would be the right term. There'll be some certain takeaways that you'll agree on. I mean, and we've seen a few. I mean, I think the biggest one is one that I tweeted about, that Microsoft is looking to develop a data center. I think in partnership with a company called G42, and it's going to be an investment in billions. Google is set to anchor fiber optic cable that will run from Nairobi through to Australia. And the good thing is this, they're taking a different approach. Instead of just thinking of an undersea fiber optic cable, they're going to do, the bigger chunk is actually going to be inland. So it will go through Kenya, Uganda, Rwanda, all the way to South Africa, and then from the coast of South Africa, it will then connect to Australia. That's the point now, it will go undersea. So, I mean, there are all these kind of agreements that are said to
Was
have come
there
out of
was there
that
a
visit.
pledge? Is there a pledge to have at least 3, 4 household American manufacturers setting shop in Kenya?
I think the one that was said was the semiconductor one, and I don't know which company that is. I need to, I think there's an handle that actually itemized all those things. But the semiconductor stood out for me. I think when that was mentioned in a clip that I came across. I don't know if there are others. And then
I'll be
there's
more
talk of
comfortable.
a military base being set up here.
I'll be I'll
Some
be
of those things do come with some external, sort of hiring.
That's why I'll be more comfortable with brands which we use daily. I'll be happy with HP setting up something in Kenya, Lenovo setting up something in Kenya. I'll be very happy if, say, stuff like any American electronics product setting up shop in Kenya, plus a variety of daily consumer, because you target something that is used on a daily, and apart from that, you have to play smart. They set it up in Kenya and they make it what we call Eastern Africa Service and Distribution Center. In that, if you want to buy that commodity, if you are in Rwanda and you want to buy it from US, then go to Kenya. That's where a hub is. Now that is empowerment. If you want to buy
That's true.
an HP You want to import an HP, you go online, automatically you will see it will track your location by your IP address. It will route you back to Kenya. Plain and simple. So I'm not just talking about mass employment of no disrespect, like mass employment and EPZ. What mass employment of engineers, mass employment of technicians, mass employment of vehicle assembly experts. That is what we are looking at. That is what puts us as a next step, as moving away from being a third world country. Because one of the key defining characteristics of a third world country is being an import-based system. Things like
Yeah,
fertilizer
100%.
manufacturing. That company
The
where
consumption based, not
that place
production.
where we import fertilizers now put up the factory here, so that it closes these loopholes of somebody selling us sand, be philosophers, be funny material, and then we have a factory here. And then some things we need to tell the Americans here to Turkey. We want to go back to our natural maize, which we could plant and replant. There are things we need to put a stop to, because
Yeah, I think I don't know what stops us from following particularly the models that or the approach that the Asian tigers took. Because the other day I was just while I'm on the road, there's a lot of Hyundais here in Kigali. Hyundais, Kias, they're quite common. But so that you don't see them in Kenya, but I even see them quite a lot in when I watch some of these American shows. I see people using Hyundai skills, so it shows the popularity of the car and of the brand, and how it has matured. It's not the Hyundais of 20, 30 years ago. It's now quite an established brand and producing quality product. And that's where all this, even the Toyotas, where do they all begin? They learn from the GMs of the time. Now GM is probably now needs to learn from Toyota. The student has become better than the teacher. That's the
but
same thing. I think we
you
need to
can
study
only
those kind of models
yes,
and
you can
and,
only
and,
achieve
and
it if you
also craft
empower it.
our own approach. Yeah,
Yes, if you have to, like that example of bringing in vehicles minus engine gearbox, fitting in those new
exactly.
components. That muscle
Yeah.
memory of doing this thing sets you up.
Mm,
Yeah.
exactly.
Then we have to put a lot of incentives if we have to talk of refurbishing factories that can refurbish a vehicle to top-notch condition. Those should be operating on a very huge tax incentive to cater to
And
stem down the flow of these imports. You have a factory that you bring in an
exactly
old vehicle, it is retuned to brand to say
to
it's
our
very
roads.
old, it's beaten to like 85% new. So when it comes out, it's like 80 to 90% efficient. That means somebody was considering importing another one. You say, I can use this one for a while. Then once you're done with that, it is scrapped to scrap metal or whatever it is you're doing. Like what they do with aeroplanes. After when an aeroplane is scrapped, it's not just thrown away. The hull, that hull, that body is used to manufacture the soda drinking cans. Things like
Oh, wow.
yes, yeah, that's soda drink. Most of
I
them
guess
because the
that's
bodies are
the
made for aluminum.
circular economy we hear about,
Yeah,
where you produce
yeah,
something
that
and then
body.
the
Yeah.
remnants of that will now be
Yes,
used into something else, feeds into another industry. That's
yes.
circular economy.
Then
And
the
it's good you also bring that point because there's another time when I was listening to all this stuff coming out of the state visit because it's interesting. Um, it got quite a coverage from the likes of channels like Bloomberg TV, and there was a discussion they were having as one of those anchors with the experts, and they spoke of something where they were saying there's now diversified supply chains. This is a new thing coming up, and this is in light of what was experienced over COVID. When we had all these chips there's a shortage of chips, and it's because everyone was relying from one single source, which was China. I mean, maybe there are
Taiwan.
other pockets of other places producing, but they cannot match up the quantity and the speed that China is. So now there seems to be a realization that America and its major companies, conglomerates, now needs to diversify their supply chain. So no longer have their factories only based in China. So now places like Kenya are becoming a good ground to establish some of this as a ways to diversify. I guess that's why they are looking to produce their semiconductors here going forward. And that should now show there's a need for other sectors, other industries, other products where they move away. Even China knows of this. That's why it's now sort of moving its value chain, or rather to the next level. So it can push sort of some of these low levels work to places like Kenya and other countries, and then it takes the next level within that supply chain. So that stood out for me, and I think it's something that we definitely need to take advantage of and see how we position ourselves and lobby that, because they're talking of also our energy source. They're saying 90% of our energy source, I understand, is from renewable. I think it's in reference to geothermal. And that in and of itself, if you set up an industry here that is using power that is said to be 90% from geothermal, there are this thing called COP23 goals. You're able to put that in your annual statement and indicate how you're meeting that goal. So again, it's all about understanding this game and the systems these guys are creating. So how do you win and show that you're
Yeah,
hitting
like
those
you remember
milestones and
we talked of that policy of any truck that is moving over 300 kilometers is put on a train. Already we are on top on green, apart from dollar control, dollar consumption. The green stuff, the environmental stuff, it puts us at a better negotiating. When you get to the negotiating table, hey, listen, every day, Mombasa to Nairobi, there's a train. We have 4 trains on each side transporting 30 trucks, pulled by only 1 inch. So we have 120 trucks moved from Mombasa to Nairobi when the engines are off. That's a win for you. And imagine 120 trucks consuming less than 10 liters of diesel. The consumption, the dollar consumption will take a hit. So I don't know. Maybe one day we'll get an opportunity to sit somewhere and somebody will listen. So it's like you are chopping a tree. You keep chopping. Slowly by slowly, you get there. And slowly by slowly, we have consumed 58 minutes and 20 seconds of a free flow Saturday. No rehearsals, no nothing. That's who we are.
yeah, man. And we've spoken what AI, talking about moving away from copy pasting solutions to diversified supply chains to state visit of the president to it goes on and on and on and on.
There's no
And
dull
that's what
day.
free flowing Saturday is about.
There's no
Yes,
dull day in the free flow Saturday. It's
none
never dull.
whatsoever,
No
none
dull
whatsoever.
moment.
Yeah,
So,
give a shout out to Lone Wolf.
Arif Mustafa, thank you for showing up. Our always lone wolf audience, nashukuru sana. And can I be allowed to say adios? Adios.
See ya.